Yesterday, the Baltimore Ravens placed a non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson, which means any team in the NFL that is interested in Lamar Jackson can offer him a contract, and if the Baltimore Ravens accepted, that team is going to send some draft picks to the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens can also match the contract offer and keep Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, which, to be completely honest, I think they should. But what we're going to do here today is we're going to explore all of the top teams that are interested in Lamar Jackson. We're going to go through a little bit of a sim season, and we're going to try to find, at least within the confines of Madden, what is the best landing spot for Lamar Jackson. What team should be reaching out to Lamar Jackson? There's this big collusion apparently going on amongst all these top teams that are not showing interest to Lamar Jackson. Yeah, right, they definitely are interested, but no one wants to meet the contract that the Cleveland Browns set with Deshaun Watson. They pretty much broke the quarterback market. It's the Browns. They're a terribly ran organization. It's kind of what they do, but I don't buy for 1 second that a bunch of teams aren't interested in Lamar. So today we are going to play through a bunch of different scenarios, and we'll try to figure out the best landing spot for Lamar Jackson. So to set the pace car, if you will, of this video, we're going to see what happens if Lamar would just stay with the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of injuries. Maybe a fully healthy Baltimore Ravens offense, that is the best spot for Lamar Jackson. Who knows? A healthy J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. A healthy first-round draft pick in Rashad Bateman. An offensive line that's one of the best in the entire conference. And a connection reignited with Mark Andrews. A healthy Mark Andrews, which is one of the best quarterback to tight end combos in the league. So in our season, staying here with Baltimore, Lamar Jackson finishes 30th in passing yards, 24th in touchdowns, 3,400 yards passing, 26 touchdowns, to 11 interceptions to go with over 1,000 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. No matter where else he goes for today's video, he's not going to have better rushing numbers, I don't think. He comes 7th in MVP voting. And the Baltimore Ravens go 10-7, making the playoffs. Let's just see how far this journey goes in the wildcard round, taking on the Tennessee Titans. And our Baltimore Ravens, unfortunately, one and done in the playoffs. Not good enough. 38-32, they fall to the great Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. So for the other teams that we're going to experiment with Lamar Jackson on, there are a few that I'm just not going to really explore. One is the Miami Dolphins. We've already done a Lamar Jackson and Miami Dolphins rebuild, so if you want to go check that out, go do so right now. But it seems like the Miami Dolphins have firmly committed to Tua Tagovailoa, and the odds of them landing Lamar Jackson, according to Vegas, are pretty much non-existent right now. The Indianapolis Colts have never really been in the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes, even though they need a quarterback. I think it's pretty much a guarantee they're going to select their quarterback in the 2023 NFL Draft, so we're not going to see what Lamar looks like in a Colts uniform. We could do the Bucs. I don't know. There's not a lot of smoke right now about Tampa potentially trading for Lamar Jackson. We already know this would win. This would win the simulation. This would win this hypothetical. They are the best playbook in all of Madden. We have put up MVP numbers with the worst quarterback I could potentially create. So let's just assume that if Lamar went to Tampa for this video, it would be absolutely unstoppable. But I think overall, Tampa is not going to be interested in Lamar Jackson. So our next stop takes us to Carolina, where hopefully Lamar Jackson can keep pounding and bring the Panthers to the playoffs. Lamar Jackson to the Carolina Panthers is pretty interesting. It's kind of that, like, do you want something or do you want a box that could be that something? Do you want to trade a bunch of draft picks to get Anthony Richardson, who could be Lamar Jackson? Or do you want Lamar Jackson for the same guaranteed talent, except you don't get the benefit of a rookie contract? The offense in Carolina, well, we know firsthand how it all kind of plays out for being our main Madden 23 franchise team. They have some key pieces there on the offensive side of the ball. Not much of a run game. You got DJ Moore. Maybe there's a little bit of connection. Definitely not as much talent on the offense as Lamar had with Baltimore. This is going to be an interesting sim. With the Carolina Panthers, Lamar puts up ridiculous numbers. 4,900 yards passing, 42 passing touchdowns to 14 interceptions. Not much rushing because it's the Carolina Panthers, but I was not expecting those passing numbers whatsoever. Much like our season with the Baltimore Ravens, he comes 7th in MVP voting and led the Carolina Panthers to a 10-7 record. Unfortunately, you meet Dallas Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs. We usually know how those work. Oh my God, we got the victory. We got the victory over Dallas. That is the sim cheese team you never want to see in the NFC. It was a pretty stellar game from Lamar. 263 yards passing, 3 touchdowns to 1 pick. In case we got a little bit of a playoff run here, let's hop in. In the divisional, we're taking on the San Francisco 49ers, a match of which, at least at minimum, the Carolina Panthers are going to hold a pretty big advantage as it relates to the quarterback, as Lamar Jackson It's a little bit better than Brock Purdy or Trey Lance or whoever San Francisco has trotted out there under center. Honestly, that would be like a sleeper team too. I'm not going to explore because it's not going to happen, but I think if I'm the Niners, man, just for coach to player matchup, Kyle Shanahan and Lamar Jackson in the same offense would absolutely be ridiculous. Unfortunately, the Carolina Panthers not having a great second half. We're kind of taking to them in the first half, but we have just too little too late. Only one touchdown in the second half, but at least we got a playoff victory. And Lamar, 400 yards, 3 touchdowns. You could argue better in Carolina than what he was in Baltimore. They may be heavily linked with Aaron Rodgers, but I think if the opportunity presents itself for them to get the Lamar Jackson, especially if things start to fizzle out with Aaron Rodgers, maybe he stays in Green Bay, who knows what happens, Lamar Jackson should totally be on the radar for the New York Jets. Jets have been desperate for that playmaker, that fan favorite, that needle mover at quarterback, and Lamar Jackson can absolutely be that player. They're definitely a team that is trending in the right direction after absolutely crushing last year's draft. You know what they did on the defensive side of the ball? Sauce Gardner, Jermaine Johnson. But on the offensive side of the ball, especially if they can get Mekhi Becton back healthy, you throw in Breece Hall, you throw in reigning, defending Offensive Rookie of the Year in Garrett Wilson. That is a very nice landing spot for Lamar Jackson. Let's see how he plays in this sim. We saw, big numbers with the Panthers when we weren't expecting them. I think same could be said here for the Jets. I'm thinking he's gonna have a big year. And with Lamar on the Jets, maybe our first pedestrian year, 20th in yards, 28th in touchdowns, 4,400 yards, 27 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and another playbook that is just not maximizing Lamar Jackson as a dual threat. Kind of is what it is, especially, my God, just give those 7 touchdowns to Lamar Jackson. This looks a little bit better. Lamar did not place as an MVP finalist within the top 10, and while the Jets had a respectable 10-7 season, there was no playoff. So maybe the Jets are going to be better off getting old man Aaron Rodgers. Now I think the Texans and the Colts are the 2 quarterback needy teams that aren't going to be kicking the tires on Lamar Jackson because they have their sights firmly set on the draft. However, Houston does have 2 first-round picks, so out of all the QB-needy teams that I don't think will be in Lamar, the one that might have an outside shot just because of the resources they have to acquire him would be the Texans, so let's just run this season. Lamar and the Texans certainly would be interesting and would give them their best quarterback prospects since the man that shall not be named. Interesting offense, need a lot of work. They're in a full-on rebuild. That's another reason why I don't think they will be in Lamar's sweepstakes, but hey, Lamar Jackson and Dameon Pierce in the same backfield would be pretty awesome. Lamar absolutely crushed it in Houston, oddly enough. Top 10 in passing, 6 in total touchdowns, 4,700 yards passing, 41 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, which slightly edges out the numbers that he had with the Panthers, where he had 42 touchdowns but 14 interceptions. Also chipped in with 275 rushing yards. Also has his best placing in the MVP race at 6th place. The best before was 7th for both the Ravens and the Panthers. However, the rest of the Texas roster, not ideal. They went 5-12. It really isn't a fit for Lamar Jackson. The direction that the Texans are going, they're going for a rebuild. They're going for that rookie quarterback contract so they can sign and build the rest of the team around him. You get Lamar, you're kind of throwing all your eggs in one basket, and you're not going to be able to properly provide him the support that he needs to make this team a 12-5 team versus a 5-12. Now, for some reason, Vegas has the Patriots as somewhat strong contenders to land the services of Lamar Jackson. I can't comment on that. I don't really know the true vibe of Patriot fans as it relates to Mac Jones. But let's see what Lamar looks like playing with Bill Belichick and buying into the Patriot way. So it's obvious Lamar Jackson in New England would feel pretty weird, but I definitely could see someone like Bill Belichick being all over that and being like, yes, that's exactly the guy that I can win. I think, going to New England, you'd ideally be behind a solid line, have strength at tight end, kind of build roster-wise similar to what he had in Baltimore. Just, I honestly feel like that'd still be a slight step down. But let's see what Lamar can do with Bill Belichick here in New England. So for Lamar in New England, 23rd in passing yards, 23rd in passing touchdowns, 4,200 yards passing, 28 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, able to add 256 yards on the ground, and 1 total touchdown. So pretty average, all things considered. He also did not rank in the MVP race, and the Patriots finished 8-9 and missed the playoffs with the 16th ranked offense. So all in all, Lamar going to New England, at least in the mind of Madden, would not be smart. Next up, we'll take a look at the Tennessee Titans, who have been looking to free up some salary cap space, moved on from Robert Woods. There's reports that Derrick Henry is on the trade block, so they're trying to free up some cap space. Is it to maybe make a under the radar play for Lamar Jackson? I actually think Lamar with Derrick Henry would be a ridiculous setup for the Tennessee Titans. Let's see how that would play out. So here's our first look at Lamar Jackson in some Tennessee Titan threads. The Titans roster overall, especially as it relates to the offense, in a little bit of influx. Like, this roster kind of reminds me of the Texans a little bit, where like it feels like they're headed towards a rebuild. No more Taylor Lewan, no more Robert Woods. But let's just see what all kind of breaks out here with Derrick Henry and hopefully a new wide receiver one, a lethal partnership, Lamar Jackson to Treylon Burks. I would say, given the talent around him, very good year from Lamar. Not so much from a yards, but 3,700 yards not the best, but 37 touchdowns to 10 interceptions with very limited weapons here in Tennessee is pretty respectable for Lamar. Also 300 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns. Unfortunately, he did not get any MVP consideration. And then from a record standpoint, the Tennessee Titans aren't really any further ahead than they were with Ryan Tannehill under center. They're kind of just like a mid-NFL team that's well coached and has some good mix of players, but not the winning combination to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender. So Tennessee doesn't look like the best landing spot for Lamar Jackson. Next up, let's get back to some of the legitimate Vegas top contenders to land the signature of Lamar Jackson. This time, we're going to take a look at the Las Vegas Raiders. We recently did a Raiders rebuild where they drafted Anthony Richardson, who's very similar stylistically to Lamar Jackson. And he put up really, really big numbers. So I have very high expectations for Lamar here in Las Vegas. Firstly, we need to acknowledge how badass Lamar Jackson looks in the silver and black. And I think when you're Las Vegas, I made this argument drafting Anthony Richardson. You're in Vegas. You need to be an attraction. And Lamar Jackson is one of the most electrifying players in the NFL. And looking at the team around him, it would be outstanding having Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, fill out some other pieces on the offensive line. This might be, out of all the teams we've done so far, the best offense that Lamar Jackson could be going to, as long as Josh McDaniels just doesn't screw it up. And as expected, especially if you saw that Anthony Richardson rebuild, Lamar Jackson absolutely crushed it. 4th in yards, 4th in touchdowns, 4,900 passing yards, 42 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, along with 242 rushing yards and another rushing touchdown. He was runner-up in the MVP race, and assuming that Tom Brady retired in this scenario, he would have been the MVP in his first year as a Vegas Raider. And the success is there outside of the fact that the cheat code in the AFC in Kansas City's interdivision, the Raiders go 13-4 and able to punch their ticket to the playoffs here in the wildcard round. First up is Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, and unfortunately, the Carolina Panthers option is still the only playoff victory that we've been able to get, as we fall 27-24 with Lamar having a decent game, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. But overall, you've got to say the Raiders have been the best landing spot in a Madden sim so far for Lamar. And while they're not the final team of this little video experiment, they are the team that I think out of all of them, and it pains me to say this as a Philadelphia Eagle fan, that if I was in charge out of any of the teams that we've seen here today, that I would aggressively go after Lamar Jackson, it would be the Washington Commanders. When you look at the context of everything around Washington as it relates to the offense, it makes sense, man. You look at Lamar here in the threads, looks good. You know, you have Ron Rivera, who as a head coach had his best success in the NFL having an off-script mobile quarterback in peak Cam Newton. You look at the Commanders, they are kind of a quarterback. They have a solid offensive line. Not great, but solid. They have Scary Terry. He's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. You have Jahan Dotson, who looks like one of the better young wide receivers in the NFL. A good 1-2 punch in the backfield. And it must be nice just having a quarterback that you can be proud of. Not a quarterback that celebrates taking a roughing the passer, which is absolute bullshit, like he just won the Super Bowl. That is a nerd. I don't want that guy to be the face of my franchise, but someone like Lamar Jackson could properly lead this team in. And if, there are reports that they're going to sell, they're going to have brand new owners. I guarantee those brand new owners are going to want a flashy franchise quarterback. And then for Lamar in 1 year in Washington, 9th in yards, 5th in touchdowns, maybe even better than expected. 4,800 yards passing, 41 touchdowns to 12 interceptions, and was able to chip in 215 yards rushing and 3 rushing touchdowns. And in the MVP race, coming 6th, which also equals what we achieved with the Houston Texans in MVP voting. And in a very competitive NFC East, the Commanders go 10-7 and are able to punch their ticket to the playoffs, where they have to take on the big, bad, reigning divisional champions, reigning conference champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, and we handle them 31-28 in what would be an epic matchup. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, probably quarterback 1 and quarterback 2 in the NFC in this context. Not the best game from Lamar. 2 interceptions. You don't like seeing that, but 338 yards passing, 3 total touchdowns is really, really, really good. And we are in the division round this time against the 49ers. Let's hop in and see if maybe playing the moments, grabbing a front row seat, watching Lamar Jackson, what he does best, can get the Commanders into the NFC Championship game. So the 49ers, this is pretty much the exact scenario we had when we put Lamar on the Carolina Panthers. We won our first playoff game. Then in the next round, we had to take on the 49ers, who were just a little too much. But I think the Commanders are a little bit deeper, especially when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. And I have better expectations in this than I did with the Panthers. Honestly, I didn't even expect to make the playoffs with the Carolina Panthers, but I did expect to make the playoffs with the Commanders, because I truly do believe, as much as it would be very annoying to have Lamar Jackson within the NFC East, I think the Commanders should go all in on Lamar Jackson. Now, this is definitely not the playoff performance you want to see, and there's no way the San Francisco 49ers put up 45 points with their lackadaisical, overrated offense, but is what it is. 1-1 in the playoffs for Lamar if he goes to Washington. And the final scenario for Lamar Jackson is the favorite to land his services, even though they've kind of deflected all and anything that is tying them to Lamar Jackson on social media. I'm not buying that for 1 second. That is Lamar going to the Atlanta Falcons. And I look at Lamar Jackson in the Atlanta Falcon threads, I think right up there with the Raiders. It just looks right. You hate to make the but, you know, Michael Vick with Atlanta. Lamar Jackson, it's something I kind of would want to see. As a neutral, I mean, that'd be Lamar coming to the NFC. More competition for my favorite team. However, I think that would be an awesome landing spot. Paired him, you got Drake London. You have a great young wide receiver. You have a solid offensive line. Lindstrom was like the highest graded offensive lineman last year for PFF. Algier looks like a decent upside running back. And you got the freakiest tight end into the NFL. I'd love to see Lamar Jackson have and build similar type relationship with Kyle Pitts that he has and has been able to establish with Mark Andrews in Baltimore. That would be an absolute lethal combination. And Atlanta's a pretty good sim team. I'm expecting big time numbers here for Lamar with the Falcons. And finishing up with Atlanta, Lamar played very well. Very, very well. 5,000 yards passing, which is the most we've had out of all these different simulations. 43 touchdowns, 19 interceptions is a lot. Being able to chip in 281 yards rushing and 2 rushing touchdowns, 19 interceptions is a lot. Even with 19 picks, Lamar Jackson still at least makes the short list for MVP, coming in at 10th place. However, a 7-10 record, not good enough. I think even for Atlanta, if you made a move for Lamar Jackson, you probably would expect and hope for better return on investment than 7-10 and last place within a very weak NFC South heading into 2023. But until anything happens, Atlanta does seem like the favorite to maybe land Lamar Jackson. Throughout today's video, we saw Atlanta be somewhat favorable. We saw Washington be a great landing spot. The Raiders were ridiculous with Lamar Jackson. And then you can say staying put with the Raiders is definitely a viable option. And hey, maybe an outside chance of going to the Carolina Panthers. Out of all these teams, where do you think Lamar Jackson is going to end up? Let me know in the comment section below, and we will see. I'm pretty sure we will figure out what's going on before the draft starts. I think that's in 50 days, so plenty of time for Lamar Jackson to potentially move. But I think between Atlanta, Washington, Vegas, Carolina, or staying packed in Baltimore, those are the likely spots. Obviously, it's casting a wide net for a guess and prediction. But that's just what I think. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, and I will see you guys back here on the next one. If it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you back here on the next one. Big time rebuild tomorrow with Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. I'll see you then. Peace out.